This is going to be a simple comparison between the Sound Devices MixPre III and the Zoom F3. And it's a simple comparison because my audio needs on set are pretty simple. I need to capture clean dialogue because all my other sounds I'm adding later in post, Foley, sound library, etc. It's just dialogue. That's what I need to get when I'm on set, besides room tone, stuff like that. So if I compared these side by side on like a feature set comparison, the Sound Devices would smoke the Zoom. This is a $1,000 field recorder, and this is a $300 field recorder. However, they both support 32-bit float mode. And when I'm on set, I'm typically running in 32-bit float mode. Why? Because I often don't have a sound mixer helping me out. And if I'm recording in, say, 24-bit sound on the MixPre, I have to have a sound mixer there to man the gain knob, because if my actor suddenly gets loud, we need to gain that down a little bit or the audio will peak and then it's distorted and I have to do ADR. Not a good scenario. So if your field recorder supports 32-bit float mode, which both of these do, what that allows you to do is just hit the record button, leave the gain knob alone, and even if something gets really loud, you can dial that back down on the timeline later on and there's no distortion. It's amazing. So at the end of the day, that's really all I need in a field recorder. I need quality 32-bit float recording. So here's what we're going to do. I have an XLR splitter cable coming off my Sennheiser shotgun mic. So I'm going to feed the same signal into both of these and we're going to peak, we're going to talk really soft, and we're going to compare them side by side and see what they do with the same signal. All right? So let me hook this guy up and then we'll continue. 1 second. There we go. They're both hooked up. They're feeding off the same shotgun mic. And so let's do a comparison. Before I do any extreme stuff, let's just compare me doing normal volume dialogue. Let's start with the MixPre. So now you're listening to the MixPre from the Sennheiser shotgun mic. And as I already mentioned, if we did a feature comparison between these two, this one would win. It has more features. It has an extra mic input, etc., etc. But when it comes to capturing clean dialogue from a single shotgun mic, how do they compare? Now we're going to switch over to the Zoom F3. Same signal, same room, same tone, same volume, and you can see how I sound now. This one's really like a little plug-and-play field recorder. You do initial setup on it, and then you just plug in a mic and you hit record. There's no gain knobs or anything. It just records. So that's how these sound with normal sounding dialogue. Now we're going to switch it and do some extreme stuff. And again, remember, this is the same signal. So I'm going to get really loud, really soft, and then we'll compare that on the timeline. So here we are on the Fairlight page. You can see I've got some audio of me talking here. The top track is the Zoom F3. The bottom track is the MixPre. Now you might be thinking, hey, if these were both 32-bit float, why are we seeing a difference in the waveforms? Well, that's because the MixPre has gain controls, and I had the gain set a little higher than the default gain on the Zoom F3. And if this was 24-bit sound, all of this stuff would be wildly peaked and unusable. Even if I lowered the volume, if it was a 24-bit wave file, this would stay flat and it's completely toast. But 32-bit float, check this out. All the details there. It's amazing. Let me lower the MixPre, and there we go. So I'm going to play these in a second. What we're going to do, in fact, let me just scroll over here. We've got 2 of the loud sections back to back, along with 2 of the whisper quiet sections back to back. So we begin with the Zoom on each of these and then go to the MixPre. So we're going to see what these field recorders did in 32-bit float mode with the extreme on the loud side and then with this drop to quiet, okay? So I'm going to loop these, but before I do, if I highlight a clip and do Shift F and then analyze, you'll see it's 9 dBFS and the LUFS is 100 because it's so loud. We talk about LUFS in the post-sound course, so just ignore that for now. Okay, see, it's at 9 as well. Same for the soft stuff. So you can see these are identical as far as volume goes. So I'm going to loop them and let's see what they sound like. Then all of a sudden they're really loud. 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 So those sound almost identical to me. Even when I put headphones on, they really sound the same. And your mind plays tricks on you because you think you hear something different. But let's zoom in really fast. And if we look at these wave files, so here's the F3. Just look at the pattern. So it's got a little line right there. Like, let me make this bigger. So it kind of goes up here and drops down, and over here. It's very close, but it is a little different. So these field recorders are doing something different. Let's do this. I'm going to put an EQ on this track, and I'm going to play this, and we'll watch the EQ and see if we see anything different there. Okay, cool. So we've got the Neutron 4 equalizer up. This is from Isotope, and I talk about this software in the post-sound course. So don't worry, it might look Greek right now, but I just want to compare what these are doing. I've raised one of the bands in an area that might be offensive in this dialogue. Again, we talk about this in detail in post-sound, but let's just see what this does. I'm going to loop it. And all of a sudden they're really loud! And all of a sudden they're really loud! And all Okay, look at this right here, the peak on each of these. All of a sudden they're really loud! And all of a sudden they're really loud! And all of a sudden they're really loud! The MixPre is peaking at 1.4, whereas this is at 1.3. So that shows there is something different happening on these files. We could do a lot more with that EQ as far as comparing goes. We could sweep back and forth and listen to the different frequencies, but let's just go over to the quiet stuff and see what it sounds like. All right, I'm going to play it twice. And then they're kind of normal, talking normal, so you gain it back down and they get really soft, and it's too soft, so you're trying to recover from. And then they're kind of normal, talking normal, so you gain it back down and they get really soft, and it's too soft, so you're trying to recover. So again, that is really close. If I put headphones on and listen to these back to back, I think I hear slight differences, and I know there are differences, but it is really, really close. For $300, you can do really well with the Zoom F3. I love sound devices. Of course, they have a recognizable name in the industry. They're quality equipment. I'm never going to speak bad about sound devices, but if you're strapped and on a budget, this is a good option. And here's another scenario. I'm a big believer on having 2 of anything that could shut down your production, right? Because if you're out in the forest shooting and you're not buying equipment shop and you drop your field recorder in the water, your production's shut down. And that's very expensive. So you can buy one of these for $300 and then spend another $300 and have a backup field recorder and still be cheaper than this one rings in. Or take the $700 difference and throw it towards a good shotgun mic. So it's something to think about. Sound devices is amazing, but the Zoom F3 is a really good option. Listen, if you like this type of stuff, if you're an aspiring filmmaker, check out my film school. Write and Direct, writedirect.co. I'm a filmmaker, and like you, I know it's like to be consumed with the passion to make movies, and that's what I do. I do independent film, I do this training on the side. And I did the normal thing. I went to Los Angeles, I went to film school, I worked on studio and independent. And here's the thing. If you're wanting to direct movies and you spend tens of thousands of dollars on film school, and you graduate and you don't have any money left, you're in a tough spot. Because the only way forward as an aspiring director is to begin directing movies. I mean, sure, you can PA on studio films and try to work up that endlessly long ladder with no guarantee. Good luck with that. I have friends that I went to school with that were directing majors that are not directing anything right now because of how difficult it is to break in. I don't want that to be you. You have to learn the craft, for sure, but Hollywood doesn't care about the school you went to. They don't care about your thesis project, none of that. So learn the craft affordably so you have the money left over to buy gear and to start making movies. And that's what Write and Direct is all about. So check it out, writedirect.co. I would love to see you there. And if I don't see you there, I'll see you on the channel very soon.